Give this food for thought. Meat. We never really do stop and think about meat we find at a local supermarket. How does it get there? How is it made? All those lumps of red cells of chicken, lamb, beef, and ham. Those blood cells look tasty. We simply take it for granted that it's just there, and it always will be there for us to pick up and move on with our busy lives. However, food was something that we had to work hard for. It wasn't this easy. Our ancient ancestors had to hunt and kill animals to get meat. However, as technology advanced, things have changed. Now we think of meat as something we get easily and effortlessly through the supermarket. However, have you thought about the economic and environmental costs meat production is made through packaging, storing, processing, and sending it off to your local supermarket? Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to present to you an idea, an innovative idea which could revolutionize the way we eat. Using science and technology, we can abandon current obsolete meat production methods and use stem cell technology to create meat in a lab. In the past, we have kept animals as livestock in pastures or barns and then sent them off to the slaughterhouse. Now, using stem cells, I believe that we can make meat in the lab. So to understand what cultured meat is, which is meat made by stem cells, we have to know the basics of stem cells. Stem cells are said to be pluripotent or totipotent. This means that they have the ability to become any cell type, such as heart cell, muscle cell, or even eye cell. They're all precursors to all body cell type, and they can regenerate themselves indefinitely through cell division. So the analogy which I would create is that they're like blank slates. You can write, draw, depending on the picture you want, and then photocopy it as many times. So you might ask, why do we need to change to cultured meat in the first place? The answer is dip. Dip. D for demand, I for inefficient, and P for pollution. So I've explained what stem cells are. Now I want to explain how the actual cultured meat is made using stem cell technology. So it's actually quite easy. This is a cow, if you didn't know. Take a stem cell from a cow, put it in a sterile petri dish filled with nutrients, and ta-da, you have meat. It's pretty easy. So I've explained why we need to change to cultured meat. DIP, demand, inefficient, and pollution. So demand. The current meat production cannot keep up with the growing human population. That's the demand. I have to skip that. So according to the United Nations Environmental Program in 2008, they believe that the human population would double from 6 billion to 12 billion. And with the meat consumption per capita, that means on average a person eats, we must double our meat production in the next 40 years if we want to sustain that. That's about 468 tons of meat we have to produce. And that's quite a lot. In such a crowded world, space, fuel, and water are scarce resources, and we might not have this kind of luxury to spend and waste in the future. If cultured meat was to be produced on a large scale, there will be no more accusation of animal cruelty, no more vegetarians to take protein pills, and no more human to starve in this world. Potentially, a single cell could be enough to feed the world's population. So I've explained what demand is. Now I want to go to inefficiency. So according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, or UNFAO, the livestock sector is far the most single user of land, using 26% ice-free land and a third of the total's global arable land. So raising animals is grossly inefficient, because while animals eat a lot, they have to eat 6,800 kilograms of grass before they're being slaughtered. And while they eat a lot of grass and hay, they can only produce comparatively small amounts of meat. They need to feed on 100 grams of meat to produce 10 grams of edible meat. So the irony here is we feed more food to the food than they feed us. Energy. The meat production uses a lot of energy. I'm not even kidding here. Simply add up the intensive stages of meat production, such as operating the factory farms, truck the animals many miles to the slaughterhouse, using energy to run the slaughterhouse. So you kind of get the idea. It's a lot of energy. In New Zealand, we use 70% of water goes towards the agriculture sector. And if we do a rough calculation, a single cow consumes 20,000 of liters of water in its lifetime. So in 2008, John Anthony Allen, a professor at King's College, London, went as far as telling the world to go vegetarian and to stop eating meat. That's a big thing to ask. I personally love meat. I can never go on a week without eating meat at least once. And many of you here would probably kill to get meat. With traditional meat productions, you had to make a choice between the meat and the environment. With cultured meat, it gives you best of both worlds. You can enjoy your steak on a Sunday night, knowing that you're caring for the environment. A researcher at Oxford University stated that if we changed to cultured meat, we would be using 45% less energy, 99% less land, and 96% less water. So, still not satisfied? Okay, let me ask you a question. What is the most polluting practice in human society today? Instantly, most of you people would think of the transport sector. It's a bit blurry because it's pollution. We're all told to change to hybrid cars or carpool with each other and use public transport. However, it is actually the meat industry, which is a far bigger problem, a far bigger pollutant than the entire transport sector. Meat production contributes 18% of greenhouse gases globally. Not only does it pollute, but it is also able to spread diseases, such as Salmonella and E. coli. With cultured meat, the meat itself is sterile, and there is no airborne diseases created. And as we can also manipulate the nutrients when we're culturing the meat. So, such as, for example, in traditional meat, there are something called saturated fats, and these are really unhealthy for you. It clogs up your blood vessels. So using cultured meat, we have the potential to replace saturated fats with healthy omega-3 oil. This means that McDonald's could produce a healthy burger. This might look like an average burger, but the meat made is actually made out of poop. That's right, poop. Somehow this feels like a plotline of a science fiction horror movie. Population booms equal food shortages. Solution? Synthesize food with human excrement. A Japanese scientist at the Okayama laboratory was able to develop steak based on proteins, and he was able to create edible steak, extracting the nutrients produced by the bacteria. So this recycled poop burger would reduce waste and emissions. So, waste not, want not, I guess. The message I want to get to across today, and the reason why I showed this poop burger, was that it is human nature to be scared of things that we do not understand, as stated by this Roman proverb, dum not quod non intelligent. Does anyone know what that means? I had to search up on Google. They condemn what they do not understand. People fear what they do not understand. They're just scared of it. So, everyone has their own yuck factor, is what I call it. For example, I dislike tomatoes. That's probably in my top 10 yuck factors on my list. And on first hearing about cultured meat grown in a petri dish, people would often feel shocked, and the concept would probably, be at the very top of their yuck list as well. This is one of the major obstacles cultured meat has to overcome: acceptance. It is human nature to be instinctively repulsed at something that is so out of the ordinary, so unnatural. Meat grown in a petri dish, like I said, is really weird. However, I'm inclined to think if people were made aware of the current meat production, their gut feelings would turn towards cultured meat rather than traditional meat. So let me present to you a scenario. You're with your friends, and there are two restaurants, and you decided to go one. Here is a restaurant that's serving traditional meat, and on the other side, here serves cultured meat. Both restaurants throughout the premises have television that's constantly showing the production methods of how that meat was made. So if you chose this restaurant, you will be seeing something like this. A cow being slaughtered alive, sometimes alive, and pigs being crammed into tiny cages. However, if you chose the restaurant over here, you would be seeing something more like this. Scientists in white lab coats manipulating nutrients to make meat. That's pretty nice. So my guess is that if you chose that restaurant, you would be less likely to run out of the restaurant screaming at the top of your lungs. Animal cruelty has been a big issue in the past decade. The factory farming industry strives to maximize output while minimizing costs, always at the animal's expense. The giant corporations found out that they could save money by cramming the animals into smaller spaces. But one fundamental question remains. In the past 100 years or so, slavery was deemed acceptable. 100 years later, slavery was abolished. So how would we as humans accept killing of an animal in the next 100 years if we have the knowledge to make meat using science and technology? The way forward, the ethical way forward, is in cultured meat. It is like meat without brain or pain, is what I call it. New Zealand has traditionally been dependent on its primary industries, such as horticulture, agriculture. And in these advancing world, these industries are too outdated, they're too damaging to the environment. And we need something that could support our country for long. It is time for New Zealand to embrace science and technology. And as Sir Paul Callaghan said, it is a knowledge economy that drives the prosperity. So a quote by William Shakespeare sums our situation very well. There's a tide in the fears of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune. The tide here is now, New Zealand. We need to raise our anchor and ride the current of science. In the science world, cultured meat is out there, the opportunity is out there, and most importantly, our future is out there. Thank you.